Hello everyone, I'm Asher, a final year MBBS student at Christian Medical College. So the moment I learned about the opportunity to display a showcase, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. And to not make a decision in haste, I took my time in solitude to reflect and decide if what I'm wanting to talk about is something every one of us, you and I, could collectively resonate with. But as fate had it, I was immediately interrupted by a power cut, which made me realize it was 46 degrees Celsius outside in the month of July in a country as India, which is in subtropics and we are supposed to have monsoons as of now. And simultaneously, my phone was flooded with 1,000 notifications about the cyclone Biparjoy. Well, it was in that moment when I was instantaneously reminded of the times when my 14-year-old self was constantly told by my dad, Asher, switch off lights and fans when not in need. Switch on the AC when it's only a necessity. How about you start taking bath with a bucket and a mug and not use a shower as long as possible? And I always told that, but Dad, aren't we blessed enough to afford that? Why would you want to ration what we could easily pay for? My dad smiled for the most part, but one day he made me sit down and told me, I quote, Asher, I was the same as you in your age. If we have it, why not use it? And if we are blessed enough to have it and to be able to use it, let's just make full use of it. But it was only in 2005 when I attended a 3-day environmental sciences conference. It was then I realized how much of an important role I, as a single individual, could play in order to save the environment. And it was not for me, Asher, it was for you and for your 4 children. But the nonchalant me back then thought my dad was joking, and I continued to live the way I wanted. It was only until I turned 18 and the Leonardo fan that I am watched The Reverend. I was awestruck, my heart was scintillated, and I was shaking towards the end of the movie to realize a man's relationship with its environment and how much it affects a man's very own future. And I was so overjoyed in that very moment to finally understand what my dad was talking about and to finally comprehend his emotions and thought process that I immediately called him up and said, Dad, I now realize what you were talking about 4 years back. And the response I got was, and I quote, Son, your ability to acknowledge a realization can only bring a change if it is surpassed by your awakening to work towards it. And as I sit down to talk to you, I now know what he truly intended to say. And I realize I'm not here to tell you everything that I know, to discuss my passions or what motivates me, but rather to tell you and vocalize that one thing which you need to hear. I'm not here to educate you. I'm not here to ask you for a favor. I am here to sync with your heartbeat. So that if you resonate with what I say, may you and I together bring a change. Or each one of you is a change maker in a way. Our environment, yours and mine, is going through crisis, and we know about it. I am not going to tell you how the ice caps is melting or glacier is turning into water, or how it rains during summer as of now, because we are very well aware about it. But what you do not know or realize is the fact that it's not just about the glaciers melting. It's about people, the innocent people, vulnerable people. It's about you and it's about me. And it's about your 4 children who will be living on this planet. It's about a man's relationship with the natural world. A world which we collectively felt in 2023 as the hottest year in the recorded history. And trust me, it's not the record we would want to break. And somehow, despite knowing what our environment is going through, this topic has still not made it to our everyday dinner table conversations. Why? Why all we talk about is money or the new tax laws or the annual budget? Because you know, money influences your immediate decision making. It instantaneously gratifies your heart's desire without having to look 50 years down the line. For if we do not have money, what are we going to eat? Economic haywiring is known to be an immediate threat. But what about environment? What about climate change? Flood is not to be known as an immediate threat, right? And controlling our carbon footprint? How is that gonna provide us with an instantaneous gratification? But even if we know that environmental crisis will prove to be a threat down the line, you and I simply don't seem to care. And why? Because let's be honest, if you are informed enough about climate change, we know that you and I are also enough to not let it affect us instantaneously. We'll try to find an immediate cure and a way to protect yourself. But just yourself. There's a hole in the ozone layer and the UV rays, let's just buy another sunscreen. Rising temperature, let's just switch on the AC. Do you see a pattern here? We are more inclined towards curative measures than preventive measures. Because prevention demands a sacrifice of your immediate wants. It demands you to choose an alternate form of lifestyle, may it be as simple as turning off the lights when not in need. Cure? Woe. Proves and gives you an instant relief from a misery, and thus installing a pseudo sense of self-gratification. And we choose to lead a lifestyle which continuously pushes our environment to crisis. And why? Because you and I are privileged enough to know that no matter what, for the time being, we will be safe and protected. But are we human enough to know that's just not about you and me, but also about people around us, which may not have the similar access, money, power or influence to obtain the similar resources to protect themselves as you and I? It's the action of 20% of the people which will affect 100% of the population. It's the 80% of the people who had no say in it who would be the ones paying for it. For the time being, why should you care about the global population when you are safe and so are your friends and family? Now, let us paint a picture. If a homeless, unarmed, weak man, governed by his need to feed himself for his survival, tries to attack you and you instantaneously shoot him, would not the guilt of his blood haunt you? Despite knowing the fact that you had other ways to protect yourself, would you not be guilty of yourself? Now, for a minute, let us look outside our windows of cells. Let us look at the sabzi wale bhaiya outside who's sweating his blood out in order to be able to provide a meal for his family. Your kachre wale kaka who come every day to collect and sort the waste which you produce. Your house helps which reside in slums and bastis. And these people are leading a normal life, not trying to attack anyone, but rather making our everyday lives so much easier. They don't even use an AC or a petrol-based vehicle or even a chemical-based sunscreen. Imagine if your actions leads to compromising their quality of life, letting them be entrapped by the consequences which are a result of your action. Would you still not be ridden by guilt? So what should we do? What could you do in your personal capacitance? You could realize the fact that change begins with you and your very own self. Remember the time when my dad told me, Asher, your ability to acknowledge a realization can only bring a change if it is surpassed by your awakening to work towards it. And I often thought, how could something as little as me switching off the light, bathing with a bucket and not with a shower, on an everyday basis ordering one Swiggy order less would bring about an impact? How could change in one person's carbon footprint would bring about a miraculous change in the world? And though I often found myself not being able to answer these questions, I still did my bit. And then one day I stumbled upon the beautiful butterfly effect theory. Well, the butterfly effect is a state of facts which beautifully proves that the world is deeply interconnected, such that one small occurrence has the power to influence much larger complex systems. And you may say, Asher, where's the proof? Well, professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Led Lawrence, through his series of experiments, proved that a flap of the wings of a butterfly at a place can ultimately cause a tornado somewhere, and thus unequivocally proving that small changes can have larger impacts. You never know how you walking a mile today to your nearby grocery store and ditching that motorbike would have also positive impact on your environment and in turn the lives of many who are a part of it. How your one less Zepto order would save much fuel, and how you turning on one less light would turn and light someone else's world bright. Because it begins with you. And I'm not going to ask you to bring that change. You are going to ask that to yourself. Because what comes from within stays with you forever. No matter how many times my dad asked me to switch off those lights, until it came from within, it always felt like a chore and never a responsibility. And it's about time that you and I, we change the cool. Let's make sustainability cool. Walk to a local grocery vendor and not a flashy supermarket which consumes tons of power and logistics. For it is not your own planet, but it is everyone's planet. And you do not want to be the one whose ignorant action ultimately compromises the quality of life of someone who had no say in it. And lastly, we all know that climate change is happening right now. We know that it's real. Let's all work collectively and in unison to prevent climate change. Let us stop procrastinating. Let us all work in sync, in unison, with all our hearts to do something which is beneficial to the entire human race and not just for you or for me. You don't have to go out of your way to make a change. You don't have to drastically turn your world upside down in order to make an impact. You gotta do is start small and let the butterfly effect play its part. Be your own hero and do the right thing. Not take this planet for granted. Let us not take anyone's life for granted. Let you not take any chance to bring about a change for granted. I do not take this opportunity for granted.